This is the usual way.
Okay.
So, good afternoon and welcome to the press conference of Minister for European Affairs Tytti Tuppurainen and Minister for European Affairs of France, Amélie de Montchalin. The ministers just discussed a wide range of current EU issues such as the next multi-annual financial framework, the rule of law and EU enlargement. We will first have a short statement from both and then we will take some questions. So, Minister Tuppurainen, please.
So, hello everybody and a warm welcome to my colleague from France, Madame Amélie de Montchalin. It's wonderful to have you here in Helsinki and Finland. We as presidency welcome you and the French effort and initiative in the European Union. We cooperate very good and our discussions were very fruitful and constructive. We had a very heavy agenda, many items to discuss. I'd like to raise a few of them and start with our common understanding on the rule of law. It's very high on our presidency's agenda, the common values and the respect of the rule of law, and we both welcome the comprehensive and positive approach to the rule of law. It should be not something that divides our union. This is our common union of values, and the rule of law is certainly something that is actually uniting us, and it should be seen that way. We will come back to the rule of law issues in September, General Affairs Council. We will have the hearing with Hungary in regards to Article 7 procedures, and we will also discuss the evaluation of the rule of law dialogue, which is a more optimistic and systematic way of enhancing the rule of law and common values in the Union. So I thank my colleague for the French support on high ambition regarding the rule of law, and we will certainly cooperate in that. It will be a figure in almost every General Affairs Council meetings during this autumn. Secondly, we discussed the enlargement. The enlargement, as we see it, is a tool for stability and peace in Europe, and the Council reverts to the enlargement in October, and we will make substantial decisions concerning the membership accession negotiations with North Macedonia and Albania. It needs to be thoroughly consulted with all of the member states, and we need to have a common understanding, and the Council will make relevant decisions regarding that. We also discussed our high ambitions on climate, where we certainly share ambition and goals. President Macron has set a very ambitious target for Europe, and our presidency also aims at having a very ambitious long-term climate strategy for the Union, climate neutral Europe by 2050, and I'm very happy that we are standing on common ground on this. We also discussed the multi-annual financial framework, and we will get more into details regarding that in our bilateral meeting that will take place on 10th of September, if I remember correctly.
Exactly.
So that was just a short list of what we discussed, and I let my colleague to continue.
Minister de Montchalin, please.
Many thanks. To Minister Tuppurainen and Tytti your warm welcome and the very productive discussion. It's my second time in Finland. I came in May for the Council of Europe 17th anniversary, and I received the key of the Council of Europe from Timo Soini, and I was very happy to be back today as Finland started its presidency. I had also the opportunity to meet this morning with Pekka Avisto, and with these two meetings we were able to make the full review of all the bilateral and also the European and international topics where Finland and France are cooperating very actively. We support very strongly the commitments you've done during your presidency. The Finland and the Finnish people and French people have had ties for many, many years. I think France was the first country to recognize your independence back in the early beginning of the 20th century. And we were also very happy that your president was in the Champs-Élysées in July, just 1 year after the visit of President Macron. So we are countries with strong ties. We are also having shared vision of many of the challenges at the European level. We see that we are in a crucial moment, a moment of transition, a moment after these European elections with a new team incoming. We have this strategic agenda that's been agreed unanimously by leaders. We have this new institutional cycle, but we have also very urgent topics to deal with. Climate. Indeed, we need to have a budget at the European level that is at the level of the ambition we have together. We have also the Brexit, which is a situation that imposes us a lot of responsibility and actual work. And we think jointly that citizens should be more involved or more linked to what we do. And this is why we actually support very profoundly your social and inclusive growth model, because social issues are topics where European citizens expect more outcome, more concrete results. They expect that we ensure that they can live in decent conditions, that there is equal pay, that we respect their rights, and that when they work, they have a decent living. So these were topics we discussed. We also, by nature, discuss Eurozone topics, as we are two countries members of this economic and monetary union, being it the budget, how we can put resources together, but also the banking union, the investment capacity we have, the capital markets union, and everything that can build a joint prosperous continent, creating jobs and also creating competitiveness and attractiveness. To finish, to end my comment, we also discuss migration and Schengen revision. You know that France is very active trying to find a common, durable European solution so as people that are crossing the Mediterranean Sea are protected. And if they are asylum seekers, they receive the protection and the shelter they deserve, because based on the Geneva Convention, we think it's even an identity of the European continent to be able to protect those who are facing death threats in their own countries. So France has been active on this, Finland has been supportive, and we think we need to overcome the step-by-step, boat-by-boat situation and find a durable, structural European solution. That means probably revisiting a number of provisions in the Schengen agreement, also in the Dublin regulation, and we will, on the French side, I hope with the full support still ongoing of the presidency, as you've started also organizing meetings here in Finland, find a common solution.
Thank you, Minister. And then it's time for questions. And please mention your name and your media before the question and wait for the microphone. So, any questions? Okay, over here.
Hi, I'm from the media of Social Democratic Party, Demokraatti. I would like to know that Chancellor Merkel and Prime Minister Boris Johnson were discussing yesterday. And do you see that there's kind of hope in the air so that we could handle Brexit and got a good negotiation?
So, I start. So on Brexit, the French view is quite simple in a very complex environment. What we have been trying over the 2 last years is to find a way to organize an orderly exit of the UK, of the European Union. And our message with Michel Barnier, our spirit, was that if the UK wants to leave, and if it wants to leave in an orderly manner, the best we have, and the only thing we have, is the withdrawal agreement. In the withdrawal agreement, we have this provision, the backstop. The backstop is an insurance policy. If we find a better way to both organize trade, protection and integrity of the single market and the Good Friday Agreement, then the provisions of the backstop will not be applied. So what Mrs. Merkel offered is to say the withdrawal agreement is the withdrawal agreement, the backstop is an insurance policy we will keep. It's offering guarantees to Ireland and Northern Ireland to keep a peaceful environment and to protect also the single market. But if in the next days, and she said 30 days, we manage to find what Boris Johnson called creative and flexible solutions, we are not, and we always said, we are not against implementing them in the future. But this is about the future relationship. What we need to discuss now with the UK is how they want to envisage the future. But to envisage the future, we have to go through this step, which is the moment of the withdrawal. In France, we worked very intensively to get prepared. And we have a border with the UK in Calais, with the tunnel. So we invested, we prepared ourselves to manage this transition time. We do not want the no-deal Brexit. It will be difficult, it will be challenging. We would prefer that things are made in an orderly manner, but we are also realistic. At the end, this all is a decision of Westminster and Downing Street. It's not a decision that should be taken in Brussels, in Paris, in Berlin, in Helsinki or elsewhere. It's a sovereignty question for the British people, and we're quite sure that if things need to be changed in the political declaration, if things need to be changed in the way they envisage the future relationship with the EU, we are totally open to discuss. But we will not let go this insurance policy which is provided by the backstop, because if we can invent better things, we are open to discuss, but if we are not, we need these guarantees.
Thank you, and Minister Tuppurainen.
Yes, just shortly, if there's anything positive about the sad story of Brexit, it is that it shows that Europe can stick together and stay united, that Europe 27 has act together accordingly, and I think that is something that should be noted and appreciated, and we should continue in that way. And like my colleague, Madame de Montchalin said, it is really up to the Britons themselves to make their minds. What do they want? Do they want to have an orderly Brexit, or do they want to leave without the deal? The withdrawal agreement stays as it is. It won't be renegotiated. I think that is a unanimous message sent from the member states to London, and that needs to be taken into account when they make their own mind and decisions. Perhaps if there's a possibility of a further extension, I think we should have the patience for that. So in our mind, if London would ask for another extension, we should be ready for that.
Thank you, and then we have the final question over here. Please wait for the microphone.
Juhani Niinistö from News Agency Xinhua. I have two questions actually. Could you elaborate more on the possible role of Finland? Because Tuesday night in Reykjavik, the Prime Minister, Mr. Rinne, said that that he would be meeting possibly Johnson, and Finland could perhaps produce a draft based on his long experience as a trade union negotiator. And then the other question is about France. The media reports say that France would not be opposed to a return of Russia into G7, but there have been no statements on this. But this was yesterday in European media. And yesterday here, of course, Russian President Putin asked for a more constructive attitude from the new European Commission towards Russia. Can you, as you've also talked with Foreign Minister Haavisto, can you comment on these issues?
I'm afraid our room of maneuver as presidency is rather limited. So Finland is not rewriting any agreement with London and with Great Britain. We have a common chief negotiator, and that is Michel Barnier, and we clearly respect his mandate totally. What Prime Minister Antti Rinne meant is that, of course, we are going to look for good cooperation with Prime Minister Johnson. He's going to meet him very soon. I'm personally going to meet the Brexit Minister Barclay tomorrow here in Helsinki, and we will try to analyze their opinions to understand where we are, to better read the environment where we are. Now, what UK specifically asked our Prime Minister is that Finland could use the UK vote in the Council meetings, because UK is withdrawing from the cooperation in the Council because they are now fully concentrating in their home preparations for the Brexit. And that is, of course, something that we will certainly do, and that is not anything special. That's actually a normal manner. If some country is away from the meetings, the other country then can use the vote. So that is business as usual.
Yes, I think every country in Europe is, by loyalty, responsibility, and the culture, I would say, of constructive dialogue, seeking to have a peaceful relationship and dialogue with the new Prime Minister of the UK. After this, Michel Barnier is our lead negotiator. He has a clear mandate, and even the French teams also have very in-depth and detailed meetings quite daily with the UK authorities. But I think none of us is in a position to renegotiate the deal itself. After that, as I said, the political declaration and the future relationship is still to be built. Regarding Russia, our position in France is that Russia was part of the G8. It was excluded in 2014 after the Crimean events, and there is a long list of, we think, criteria, in a sense, to be met for Russia to be able to come back to the circle of the G7 or G8 leaders. The situation in Ukraine is not satisfactory at the moment. You know that France, Germany, with President Zelensky, are working very actively to reconduct possibly a Normandy format meeting in the coming weeks. If we see outcomes possible from such a meeting, we will not meet to meet, and we will meet if we think we can make progress. We will not invite Russia in the current situation, but what we say is that there is a number of things that has been asked regarding prisoners, regarding sailors, regarding Donbass, pacifications. All these items can, progress is possible, and we are doing our best diplomatic and political effort to achieve these outcomes. Once these outcomes are achieved, then yes, we will not be against, by principle, that Russia can come back. The president, Macron, made yesterday a press conference, not a press conference, but had an exchange with journalists, and he was very clear on the fact that in the current situation, welcoming back Russia as a member of the G8 would be a sign of weakness. But we have to be clear, if a number of criterions are met, things can be analyzed differently. I think it's very important also that regarding Council of Europe, because I know it's a topic that is being discussed also yesterday between Mr. Putin and your Finnish authorities. Our aim with the Finnish presidency of the Council of Europe and now for the French presidency of the Council of Europe was really to protect Russian citizens. The Council of Europe is a place where we protect human rights for more than now 70 years. If we want press to be free, minorities to be protected, human rights defenders to have rights, minorities and LGBTs and everywhere, and even peaceful demonstration to be happening in Russia, which I think we all think are important topics, we need the Russian citizen to have access to the European Court of Human Rights. And this is why we made with the Finnish authorities this effort to have the Russian delegation back at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. This is not a normalization. This is not the exception of anything. There are still EU sanctions regarding Russia. They have been renewed at the last European Council. So our line is dialogue, clear dialogue. We say what we think is worth saying. And on Ukraine, we try to move the line so as we can find a solution to a situation that is not acceptable.
So I think it's time to close now. So thank you, ministers, thank you everyone else, and have a good day.
Thank you.